Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? I'm trying to get this thing to where I'm okay. How you doing tonight? I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I took some time off of the Facebook Lives because of Thanksgiving, and also I wanted to give myself some time to really think about and reflect on the election. And but it was nice to have time off. If you look on the Facebook page, you see a picture of my daughter and my son and my dog and I on Thanksgiving. So it was a really, really, really good holiday for me. And I did a lot of thinking about lessons learned in this election, and before I get into that, New Hampshire Advantage PAC, my PAC, I got to share some data with you. I'm pretty proud of this. So you may know that we supported some state candidates in the general election, and this is Google ads only for about the 3 or 4 weeks leading up to the general election on 6 candidates. Now this is Google ads. On Facebook we supported a lot more. For those 6 candidates, the total number of impressions, and I'm not a whiz at this just sounds impressive to me. The total number of impressions on our Google ads for those 6 candidates were 7.3 million impressions. 7.3 million, which is amazing to me. So I gotta look some more other stats. So which gave us an interaction rate, it was different for each candidate, but about 0.38%. Because from those impressions, the interactions were 27,949. So 27,949 interactions for an interaction rate of 0.38%. And then the conversions, I think the people that interacted that actually went to the site or something was really high at like 57.48%. So thank you, New Hampshire Advantage PAC volunteers. I think that's awesome. And we'll have more data too. But I think it also demonstrates that elections are really changing, and how to win elections is really, really changing. And I think we Republicans need to do some soul searching about, how we go about and do things, and so that we can win. I mean, isn't this about winning? And I'll pose a question to you. Is it about winning for a Republican? Hey Gary, thank you. Yes, I'm fully aware of that. Yep, fully aware of that. And there's reasons for that, Gary, I'd love to discuss with you. So we lost, and let me just say this, the environment, Gary, this cycle was set up perfectly for Republicans. Absolutely perfectly. We know that. And why was it set up perfectly? Well, let's go through the reasons. The inflation was the highest in like 40 years, is the highest in like 40 years. My phone's blowing up. The border situation is awful. The opioid crisis from the border situation is awful. Our Afghanistan withdrawal was awful. So the environment for Republicans was really teed up for us to win. And then so the question becomes, why didn't we win? And I might say, Gary, since you're on here, talking about the past, and I'm going to talk about the past. The environment in 2020 was awful for Republicans, was terrible for Republicans. And Gary, Trump, you're right, Trump lost in New Hampshire by 7 points in 2020, and in 2016, he lost New Hampshire by 3,000 votes, which indicated how he went down. But the 2020 environment was awful for Republicans. 2022 environment was really, really, really good for Republicans. Really good. And everyone's talking about the red wave, and how many, we're going to dominate in the House, and, we're going to win back the Senate. Kevin McCarthy was thinking we could win as many as 30 or 40 seats in the House. I think last count it's 8 or 9. Gary, I believe Trump is a good man. He did not give me everything. And I'm not attacking him. I think for us Republicans to win, we have to objectively look at why we did so poorly in this election in 2022, when the environment was so good for Republicans. And Gary Vitti, if you don't have the courage to look in the mirror and ask that question, then I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you. So, and I'm going to get to why in the title I think the biggest loser in this election is Trump. I'll get to that. But at any rate, so we had a wonderful environment for this election, and we thought maybe as many as 40 seats in the House. We thought in the Senate, Rick Scott was out saying that we could get 53 seats, 54 seats, even 55 seats in the Senate. Like I said, I think in the House we're ending up +8, a very thin majority in the House. In the Senate, we lost the seat. We lost Pennsylvania, and hopefully Herschel Walker will win in Georgia, so it'll be 50-50, so it'll be a net zero. But we so underperformed. We so underperformed this election, and if we want to win elections in the future, if we Republicans want to win elections in the future, we need to ask ourselves, how do we go about doing that? How do we prevent, this sort of immature high school or elementary school schoolyard bickering and immature stuff from demolishing our chances of winning? And we need to do that. We need to look at ourselves closely and ask ourselves, what's going on here? And why I say in my title that Trump is the biggest loser is, look at the U.S. Senate. Look at the U.S. Senate. And, as I said, people were predicting 53, 54, 55. And look at the Trump endorsed candidates in the U.S. Senate. His winners are Ted Budd in North Carolina. Ted is a sitting congressman. He won the Senate, sort of an incumbent race, filling a seat vacated by, I forget who it was in North Carolina. He endorsed Herschel Walker. We'll wait and see what happens with that election. He endorsed Blake Masters in Arizona. He endorsed Adam Laxalt in Nevada. He endorsed Don Bolduc in New Hampshire. And, so, and there were some others. He endorsed the incumbent Wisconsin senator. He endorsed, and then he endorsed some lady in Alaska who I think lost to Murkowski. But if you look at the 5 races of holding Pennsylvania, a pickup opportunity in New Hampshire, pickup opportunity in Georgia, pickup opportunity in Nevada, pickup opportunity in Arizona, that's 5. Right now, Trump's endorsed candidate has lost 4. The other one he endorsed, which was a vacant seat, was J.D. Vance in Ohio, and he won that. And he deserves credit for that. But that was a hold opportunity, not a pickup opportunity. So Trump, the key races, the key races are those 5, and he's lost 4 out of those 5, and I know that President Trump talks about what his percentage on endorsements is, and if you're endorsing a bunch of people in the House, and you're going to win those. I mean, it's you're going to win those, and that'll pump up your percentage. I mean, I could have made endorsements and had 100% had I picked it strategically. So I think in key races, and I was reading an article in the Senate and the House, key races that are contested races, I think Trump's about 50%. Which raises the question, why is he even getting this involved in this endorsement game? Sure, Obama was out campaigning for the Democrats, but he wasn't in this endorsement game. And why is Trump doing it? I mean, because listen, what happened, and this is very significant why we got beat, is he was in the contested races in the primaries. He was only endorsing those candidates who agreed with Trump that the election in 2020 was stolen. And of course his endorsement in the primary, good as gold, no question. But the candidates who won the primaries and didn't and agreed with Trump on the stolen election, that was a huge negative in the general election. Absolutely a huge negative. And so, and that's what hurt Don Bolduc tremendously. I mean, Don Bolduc, signed the letter that 120 generals signed that said the election was stolen. And then in mid-August, in the primary debate, he was asked about that. And Don Bolduc said, yeah, I stand by that letter that the election was stolen. And in fact, he said, and I ain't switching horses. So a month later, after he won the primary, he goes on Fox News, and it was shocking because Fox News showed the video from the primary debate, and then asked Don the question, well, do you believe the election was stolen? And Don said no. And Dana Perino was shocked, and she said, well, why did you change your position? And Don said, well, I studied it since I last said that a month ago. Now, the reality is no one believed that he studied it. I mean, this happened in 2020. I mean, he had plenty of time to study it, and he certainly didn't have time in those last weeks leading up to the primary to study it. So think everyone knew he was lying about that. But he flip-flopped, and then he flip-flopped again and flip-flopped again on that issue. And it really hurt him in New Hampshire. And, Amendment Oz, I think, is another example of a Trump endorsement that cost us Pennsylvania, because he ran against Dave McCormick. Dave McCormick grew up in Pennsylvania, a really good candidate, was doing really, really well. And Trump comes in, endorses Oz. Oz beats McCormick, I think, by a couple thousand votes. And then it turned out that Oz just wasn't a very good candidate. So, yeah, I disagree, Gary. McCormick would have beat Fetterman. But that goes to another point: candidate quality. Gary, you'll love this one. I mean, there's no question that Don Bolduc is a really bad candidate. I mean, the bizarre things he said during the campaign, you can't unhear that stuff. You can't unhear that him saying that Chris Sununu is a Chinese Communist Party sympathizer. You cannot unhear that stuff. So then, before I get to New Hampshire, because I want to get to New Hampshire and drill down into New Hampshire some, on a national basis, the Republican candidates, the conservative candidates, were simply unprepared to deal with the Dobbs decision and the attacks from the left on the pro-lifers. And that really, what disappointed me about that is the Dobbs decision leaked early enough in the year that if I were at the RNC when that Dobbs decision leaked, what I would have done is I would have come up with 3 or 4 or 5 different ways for Republicans and pro-life Republicans to message all of that, and I would have put those messages in front of various focus groups of independents, focus groups of Democrats, and see what messaging worked on the abortion issue. And they didn't do that. The RNC didn't do that. Our candidates were left out there. I think they were told just talk about the economy, and then of course in New Hampshire, we had your buddy Don say just awful things about it. This idea that you say to women about the Dobbs decision, just get over it, and that gentlemen are going to make the law in New Hampshire, it's being a bad politician, quite frankly. So the other thing I think that hurt us nationally, in addition to Trump, in addition to the Dobbs decision, is our candidates attack on the economy and all those other issues, but we weren't proposing solutions. Our candidates were not saying inflation's high and it's unacceptable, and here's the 5 things we ought to do to solve it. Our candidates just weren't saying it. Not at all. I mean, the pure, it's all your fault, you're wrong, you're a career politician, you're terrible, just didn't work. We had no solutions. And that hurt us nationally. And when you think about the 2 issues that the Democrats used to attack Republicans nationally, it was abortion and it was democracy, because they took the whole Trump stolen election effort and turned it into that's a threat on democracy, and they worked. I mean, I was looking at the polls, and and everyone was saying, "Oh, the biggest issue, was the economy, no question." But a lot of those polls, if you looked at them and added up abortion and threat to democracy, those two almost equaled the economy. So our so our candidates just did not talk about a vision to fix things. All they did was complain, and that's why we didn't do nearly as well as we should have done. I mean, imagine this. I mean, people are comparing Joe Biden's midterm election performance to John F. Kennedy. That's unbelievable. That's really incredible that that's going on. So we have to learn to win. All right. And one of the things we need to do is to, stop this nonsense about elections are both being stolen. And we ought to learn from the Democrats and do things to win that they're doing. And I'm not saying cheat or do anything unlawful, but they do a lot of things we don't do. And we can learn from that. I mean, one is this digital advertising. I know we do some of it, but the number of digital ads I saw from Maggie Hassan, and Chris Pappas and Annie Custer compared to Don Bolduc and Caroline and Bob. I mean, it just blew me away. The difference was unbelievable. And then the other thing is, I mean, candidate quality. I mean, Chris Sununu can teach us a lot about how to win elections, and I know that, many on the right don't like him and attack him and all that. I would say to you, he agrees with conservatives much more than he disagrees with conservatives. And to use good judgment and good sense, conservatives, is to win elections. We might want to agree, at least not air our differences at election time, and do more what he does to win elections, and we might actually win elections. So, but instead we end up with these candidates that, and I put together a list. I'm going to publish it of you've got people like Gary here who worship the personality of Don Bolduc and ignore how bad of a candidate he was. I mean, you're not a good candidate when you call the most popular Republican in the state of New Hampshire a Chinese Communist Party sympathizer. That's not being a good candidate. It's not being a good candidate when it's not being a good candidate when, you're lying about being attacked by, some libertarian, independent reporter. So we have to have better candidates, and in the future we have to have better candidates. And as far as Trump goes, Gary, I think the America First agenda is a really good agenda. I think it's, I agree with almost all of it, not all of it, but almost all of the American First agenda. Sadly, Trump the personality, is hurting the America First agenda. He simply is. I mean, and for him to be at that rally on that Monday night, the night before the Tuesday election and teased that he's going to announce for president a week later. I mean, that just was really bad for the candidates. Gary, I will tell you that we lost in 2020 when Trump was on the ballot. All right. So at any rate, Trump's the big loser in my opinion, because we lost the Senate because of Trump. This cycle, 2022, he endorsed in those key races not great candidates. And we lost the Senate in 2020 because of Trump, because you might remember we had those 2 Georgia Senate seats, both which were in a runoff in December, just like this year. There's only one this year. And instead of going out and supporting those candidates in 2020, Trump was telling people, don't go vote, your vote doesn't count, they'll steal the election. So I think both in 2020 and 2022, Trump cost us the U.S. Senate. And I think he would be much better off focusing on his agenda and not creating this endorsement game, which is a huge distraction. So many people in the middle today don't like Trump, won't vote for Trump. Of course, that could change in the future. But right now, he's not very popular, and with the middle, and he's losing support in the Republican Party. So, I personally think if Trump, continues the way he's going, then I think his support will continue to shrink, and probably won't win a Republican presidential primary. The other thing with Trump is all these legal problems. Good Lord. It was funny, I went back and looked at his PAC, and in August and September, and I just did some quick math, his PAC spent $5.3 million on legal fees, and defending him with all the stuff that's going on. And what Trump is doing now really, really hurts the America First agenda. And I think we need to focus on that agenda and not on the person. Because that agenda worked great for America. But right now, the person is taken away from that agenda. And we need to focus on winning elections and implementing America First policies. And that'll be great for America. I mean, that's where our focus needs to be. I disagree with you, Gary. The agenda's the most important thing, not the person. I used to say this when I was campaigning, Gary, and I would say it about Trump, policy over personality. I'd rather have, good policies and a personality of someone that's not really connecting with people than a candidate with a great personality and bad policy. For example, Barack Obama, terrible policies, great personality, great politician. Gary, I don't think Trump connects with the people you need to connect with to win elections. That's what you got to realize, Gary. And doesn't matter how many votes he got, he didn't win. I mean, I got more votes than Don Bolduc did than he got in the general election this cycle. Then, I got a lot more votes than he did. So, at any rate, my time's about up. Gary, send me an email. I'll call you and we can have a discussion if you would like. And thanks for listening. And I'm going to be drilling down more into all this on how to win, what we've learned at the PAC to win, and hopefully we can do better next cycle. It's going to be super important. Gary, my email is on the Facebook page, so you can find it there, and Beth can give it to you too. So thanks everybody. Thanks for listening, and I'm going to be back very soon. We'll see you. Bye-bye.